Good afternoon, my dear students. We are going to talk about today on smoking in anesthesia. Smoking is a very important area where that increases the perioperative outcome of the patient, and that increases the risk of perioperative morbidity and mortality in a dose-dependent manner. So, perioperative outcome is definitely changed by this smoking. And the smoking has very detrimental effects on human body systems. So the knowledge regarding the smoking and the effect on anesthesia is must for all anestheticists concerned. Okay, slide. And smoking, there is an proverb by James I of England in 1600s AD. He tells like this: smoking is a custom loathsome to the eye and hateful to nose and harmful to the brain and dangerous to the lungs. And WHO describes this tobacco in a very different way because it is very detrimental to all the human systems of the body and takes away the life also. It was described in such a way that it's a legal drug that kills many of the users when used exactly as intended by the manufacturers. So legal drug that is intended for killing so many users. That is intended by the manufacturer. It's a very good definition by WHO, the World Health Organization. And regarding the history is concerned, when the tobacco smoking started, the instance of tobacco smoking dates from around 5000 BC before Christ, and it was caused by used by the Mayans during religious rituals. There are more than 70 species of tobacco is known, but main commercial crop is Nicotiana tobacco. And smoking database in by 2025, it was projected that roughly about 1.1 billion people will smoke in the world. And smoking is the preventable cause of illness and premature death in UK as per the UK statistics. Almost accounts for 1 million deaths per year in UK. And in worldwide, it was calculated that nearly about 6 million deaths per year in worldwide also. Smoking in Indian scenario, it is somewhat different, and this data shows that it was introduced into India in 17th century only. And there are now at present 120 million smokers in India, as per the database. And according to WHO, India is home for 12% of the world smokers. So India is home for 12% of the world smokers, it's the largest proportion. Okay. And there are only 10 million deaths each year in India by tobacco. And according to 202 WHO estimate, it's a world in 20 years back, 70% adult males in India is smoking, and roughly this female contributes to 13 to 15 percentage. About this 2002 data, about 90% of children at the age of 16 years have used some form of tobacco in the past, and 70% are still using the tobacco product. And according to Indian Heart Association, 1 in 5 of all male deaths and 1 in 20 of all female deaths in the country by 2010 by smoking. This means that approximately 1 million deaths per year. And nationwide study, case schedule study made in India in 2010, and that denotes shows that India accounts for 83% of world's heart disease burden. That is mainly due to smoking. And having a comparison with the world, it is the not less than having the 20% of the world's population. And Indian Heart Association has identified reduction in smoking as a significant target of cardiovascular health prevention efforts. And the survey conducted by the Indian National Institute of Population Science and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And Kolkata is the highest number of smoking people. 56.6% of people in Kolkata smokes, and highest rate in the country. And 82% among this, 82% in men and 23.5% in women in Kolkata. And highest amount of BD smokers in Uttarakhand. It is a landmark case by Honorable Supreme Court in Murali S. Diora versus Union of India, that recognize the harmful effects of smoking in the public, and the smoking and the common place are totally prohibited. I mean, public places such as auditoriums, hospital buildings, health institutions, educational institutions, libraries, court buildings, public offices, and public conveyances, including the railways, because the cost effect of the tobacco is very large, and it takes away the life and lead on to morbidity and mortality also. That is COTPA Act 2003, that is the cigarettes and other tobacco products prohibition of advertisement and regulation of trade and commerce. After this landmark case by the Honorable Supreme Court of India, the government passed the bill on this COTPA Act. It's the Act of Parliament enacted in 2003 to prohibit the advertisement and provide further regulation of trade and commerce and production and supply of cigarettes and other tobacco products in India. That is the COTPA Act. And what do you mean by cigarette smoke? What it actually mean? What is the definition of cigarette smoke? It is a concentrated aerosol of liquid particles suspended in the atmosphere. There are more than 4,500 chemicals are present in this cigarette smoke. We can divide this cigarette smoke into two, particulate phase and gaseous phase. The most commonest culprit ingredient in particulate phase is nicotine, and the most common culprit in gaseous phase smoke is carbon monoxide. These two have the very major role, lead on to so many detrimental health problems in India, and lead on to morbidity and mortality also. And these are all the other gaseous portions, main portions, aldehydes, ammonia, arsenic, benzene, carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide, nitric acid, nitrogen dioxide, toluene, and toluidine. And particulate portions, so many acids, alkyl aldehydes, cadmium carbohydrate esters, nicotine, and polyaromatic hydrocarbons. This is the most important thing. Nicotine and PAH, otherwise known as polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, that lead on to so many enzyme induction and carcinogenic properties are there, that smoking causes so much of carcinomas in our body, the risk factor for almost all the carcinomas. And these are all the polyaromatic hydrocarbons, PAH, products present in the cigarette smoke that lead on to all carcinogens and other detrimental effects in our body. And the common things are this benzopyrrolene, benzofluothane, phenanthrene, benzathrene. These are all causing cancers, bladder cancers in India, and other oral cancers also. Have you heard about this terminology, genobiotics? That is the biotransformation of genobiotics by our liver. Genobiotics, that means that any foreign substance, that is maybe a drug or maybe a pollutant or maybe a food contaminants, ingested or inhaled, are called genobiotics. These are all broken down by these enzymes present in our liver, cytochrome P50, that goes on in a phased reaction, phase 1 and phase 2 reaction, by this oxidation and carboxylation, hydroxylation, by this phase 1 reaction and phase 2 reactions. Ultimately, all those things lead on to water soluble substances, and that are all excreted by the kidney also. The enzyme induction, what does the cigarette smoke on this cytochrome P460 enzyme system in our liver? It will produce an enzyme induction. So this pH, which I have already told, polyaromatic hydrocarbons, they will produce enzyme induction occurs within 3 to 6 hours with a maximum effect of 24 hours. And the infant, this is affected by the age and type of cigarettes and method of inhalation also. And the heavy smokers have the greatest enzyme induction. What is the role of enzyme induction and anesthesia? Any other role for it? Why you have to bother about this enzyme induction caused by this cigarette smoke in liver? So the smoking and pharmacology, you are using this morphine, pentazocine, all other opioids and local anesthetic agents and our muscle laxants, all lead on to increased dose requirements in smokers because of the enzyme induction. Very rapid metabolism by these drugs, these drugs lead on to requiring highest dosage requirement in heavy smokers also. That is the effect of smoking on pharmacology. This carbon monoxide, it is the most important culprit It is the most important gaseous phase for cigarette smoke, and it is normally at least less than 1.5 percentage in non-smokers, but it will be very high in smokers to up to 12 percentage. And it has a very great affinity for hemoglobin, 200 to 300 times greater affinity. What is the effect of this? It shifts the ODC curve, oxyhemoglobin curve to the left. What do you mean by this ODC curve to the left? That means it has more binding with oxygen, less release of oxygen to tissues. That is called less unloading of oxygen to the tissues. The oxygen released to the tissues is totally blocked by this shifting this oxyhemoglobin curve to the left. So unloading by reduction in the 2 to 3 dpg level, and cells are starving for oxygen. So thereby the smoking reduces the physiological reserve of oxygen to maintain the SpO2. So this picture that you saw, that this P50, that means at particular partial pressure of oxygen, that is roughly about 27% millimeter of mercury. At that point, there is the hemoglobin in our body is 50% saturated, binding with the oxygen, and 50% is free. That at the partial pressure of 27 millimeter of mercury. The partial pressure of oxygen has the major role in deciding whether to combine with the oxygen or releasing the oxygen to the tissues. This loading and unloading is maintained by this P50 level in our body. That is the reason, that is the concept behind this, the role of P50 for loading and unloading of oxygen to the tissues. So in carboxyhemoglobin, this P50 level is shifted to the left. That is roughly about 10 millimeter of mercury, roughly about. See this as per the picture. So at this partial pressure of 10 millimeter of mercury, 50% oxygen is saturated. So at the level of PO2 of 27, almost 100% oxygen is saturated. There is no release of oxygen to the tissues. So the curve is totally shifted to the left, sorry. The curve is shifted to the left only, the oxygen unloading will occur. Okay. So this is the carboxyhemoglobin curve. You are seeing this red color that shows that there is the normal oxygen dissociation curve having the P50 of 27 millimeter of mercury. See this at 50%, what may be this? Almost all the oxygen are binding with the carboxyhemoglobin because it has the very high affinity, 200 times affinity for the oxygen, and nil release of oxygen to the tissues. That will happens. That is the problem in maintaining this carbon monoxide positioning also. So that is why this carbon monoxide positioning needs hyperbaric oxygen therapy to increase the oxygen level in the plasma and reduce the carboxyhemoglobin by using this methylene blue. Another next important constituent of smoke is the nicotine, which I have told earlier. This is the most important one that producing so much of detrimental effects to our body, and it is the main particulate phase. It is an addiction forming agent, nicotine. That is why these smokers are craving for smoking because of this nicotine content. And each cigarette contains at least 2 milligram of nicotine, and the half-life of the nicotine is 30 milligram, 30 minutes, and this active metabolite, cotinine, that has the half-life of 20 hours. This chemical structure of nicotine is similar to acetylcholine, the role in neuromuscular transmission, and it has the very severe effects. First, it will produce a severe vasoconstriction that lead on increase in the sympathomimetic activity, and it will increase the heart rate, increase the BP, and severe vasoconstriction. In the CNS, it will just like that, it will cross the blood-brain barrier, enter the cerebral circulation within a matter of 20 seconds, and producing these effects, and stimulates the acetylcholine receptors in the brain, release the neurotransmitters present in the brain as adrenaline, noradrenaline, serotonin, vasopressin, and dopamine also. And nicotine increases the cardiac output also. In the low dose, it is a very stimulant effect. And high doses, it has a sedative and depressant effect. And this half-life of this nicotine is 30 minutes and is metabolized by the cytochrome P450 enzymes, mainly lead on to so many metabolites. Most important metabolite is the cotinine, which I have already told, and it has remained in the blood for at least 20 hours. And the tar is the nicotine-free remainder of the particular phase of the cigarette smoke, and the chemical components of this tar and this toxicity vary widely across the tobacco from different sources, and the measurement of tar is therefore the crude measure of relative toxic potential of tobacco combustion products. Tar yields the cigarette brands as measured by using the standardized methods involving the smoking machine. On the basis of these results, cigarette brands have been classified as medium, low, and high. However, a criticism is that smoking machine does not accurately simulate human smoking, and also that smoker have always ways of increasing their intake, for example, by blocking ventilation holes and taking deeper and more frequent puffs. And the effect of smoking on cardiovascular system, and it has the effect is a 2 to 4-fold increase in the risk of coronary artery disease, and more than 70% excess rate of death and sudden death also. It will produce atherosclerosis obliterans and thromboangiitis obliterans. It's the most important peripheral vascular disease. We'll show you that later. This is an relative risk of coronary artery disease by number of cigarettes smoked per day. That is a PACAR in female smoker versus female ex-smokers and non-smokers. So more the number of cigarettes smoked per day, the estimated relative risk of this coronary artery disease is gradually and very good increasing. So the risk of stroke and stroke-related mortality is very high. These risks are compounded in the presence of hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, glucose intolerance, diabetes, all which exhibit a synergistic effect with the smoking. The relationship with the smoking and the peripheral vascular disease has also been well documented, and the smokers account for approximately 70% of the patients with atherosclerosis obliterans, and virtually all those with thromboembolitis obliterans also. And I have already told there is a risk of stroke and stroke-related mortality, and nicotine and this carbon monoxide appear to be a major role in the cardiovascular morbidity and mortality, leading to development of this atherosclerotic plaque also. And this smoking alters the lipid profile also. And this effect of nicotine, as I've already told, will increase the sympathetic activity, lead on to vasoconstriction, increase in the heart rate, and increase in systolic blood pressure, and thereby increase the myocardial oxygen demand. What this carbon monoxide does, it decreases the P50, more affinity for oxygen, prevent offloading, shift the curve to the right, reduces the oxygen availability to tissue, including the myocardium. So nicotine produces increase in oxygen demand. This carbon monoxide produces blocking the oxygen release to the myocardium. There is a gas imbalance between these, lead on to coronary artery disease. And the other pathophysiology in CAD in smokers, and this nicotine induces the platelet activation and increased platelet adhesion and damages the endothelium. The atherogenic injury lead on to development of the atheromatous plaques, and this lead on to occlusion of these vessel lumen, ultimately lead on to coronary artery disease. And myocardial infarction is very common in the smokers, and thereby not only with this vessel, it alters the lipid profile also. This figure shows that at least this total cholesterol level is 3% increase when smokers to non-smokers, and triglyceride 9.1% increase VLDL 10.4% increase, and LDL 1.7% increase, and this protective lipoprotein HDL is 5.7% decrease, which is very protective to the heart. These are all the adding factors that increase the risk of coronary artery disease in smokers. And regarding this peripheral vascular disease, and there are two entities, thromboembolitis obliterans and atherosclerosis obliterans. And atherosclerosis obliterans account for approximately 95% of all cases of peripheral vascular disease, and fully 70% of patients who present with this disorder are smokers. Although atherosclerosis obliterans is most common among individuals more than 50 years of age, approximately 20% have cases occurring between the age of 30 to 49 years. And regarding this thromboangiitis obliterans, this is a Buerger's disease, the second most common form of peripheral vascular disease caused by the smoking. The second most important form of peripheral vascular disease. And usually 95% of the patients are males, and there is an early onset of Buerger's disease at the age of 30 to 40 years. And smoking on the respiratory system. And 90% of the lung cancers are caused by the smoking. And more than 20% of the patient smokers will develop COPD. And number of PEC years is directly related to the postoperative pulmonary complications. And what are all the effects? What are all the effects? It decreases the ciliary motility and impairment of the mucus clearance, thereby increasing the sputum production, and it is highly irritable to the airway. So hyper irritable airway irritation and increased small airway reactivity. And number 4, release of pulmonary proteolytic enzymes and electrolytic enzymes from the macrophages that will damage the parenchyma, lead on to COPD. And the reactive metabolites, the free oxygen radicals are released and it will damage the parenchyma. And it alters the immunoregulatory functions of the alveolar macrophages and increases the epithelial permeability, lead on to inflammation, and reduce the pulmonary surfactant, lead on to atelectasis. So ultimately, all these lead on to reduction in FRC and thereby increasing the closing capacity, and ultimately premature airway closure during normal respiration sometimes occurs. And the closing capacity exceeds the functional respiratory capacity. And the smoking and respiratory system increase the risk of pneumonia, a very common problem in postoperative period. And they lead on to respiratory failure, type 2 respiratory failure. And there is increased risk of postoperative morbidity and mortality also. And smoking and malignancy, 90% of the lung cancers are smokers. And it will produce malignancy almost all the organs. I have listed out all those things: oral cancers, nasal, throat, larynx, esophagus, liver, bladder, kidney, pancreas, colon, rectum, cervix, stomach, blood cancers, and bone marrow, AML. And the effect of smoking on GIT, there is a relaxation of the lower esophageal sphincter, and there is thereby increased incidence of GRD and peptic ulcer disease, and increased incidence of Crohn's disease. But the advantage is, only advantage is that I have learned from the literatures regarding the smoking. It reduces the incidence of ulcerative colitis and postoperative nausea vomiting. This is the only advantage by using this smoking. Almost all are detrimental to all our human systems of our body. And other general effects inhibit the immune function. Immune dysregulation will occur in smokers. There is a poor wound healing in smokers in the postoperative period, and increased wound infection rates because of the poor healing, and abnormal bone metabolism, and delayed fracture healing also, and passive healing I already told. So these are all Refan. இது எங்கே வரும்? இது எடுத்து விடுறது எப்படி? Mhm. Okay, no problem. It's not good in getting out. Okay, there is an increased incidence of respiratory adverse events in the intraoperative period. There are so many problems that will occur in intraoperative period. These patients need immediate reintubation, just immediate extubation. And these patients going for intraoperative laryngospasm, bronchospasm in smokers are very common. And aspiration, hypoventilation, hypoxemia, pulmonary edema. These are all the postoperative pulmonary complications commonly occur in smokers. There is so we cannot plan. Unplanned intubation is sometimes most of the time occur, and these patients go in for mechanical ventilation in the postoperative period. And very common postoperative pulmonary complication in smokers is pneumonia, and cardiac arrest is also common. And this patient may develop massive myocardial infarction in the perioperative period. Myocardial infarction, stroke, postoperative wound infection, deep wound infection, organ space infection. These smokers will go in for septic shock also. So the postoperative adverse events of this odds ratio comparing with the non-smokers is definitely very high, starting from pneumonia to septic shock, which I have already told in this slide. And this mobility, minor mobility, 30-day mortality in smokers uh, is very high. It is just taken from this anesthesiology journal. This analysis indicates that the smoking is associated with the higher likelihood of 30-day mortality and serious postoperative complications. The quantification of increased likelihood of 30-day mortality and broad range of serious smoking-related complications may enhance the clinician's ability to motivate smoking cessation in surgical patients. It is ultimately essential to prevent 30-day mortality in smoking patients. Very high risk of major and minor morbidity and mortality also. So smoking cessation program before surgery is mandatory for all smoking smokers who are subjected for surgery, except on who are in dire emergency. So what are the benefits that are all attained by smoking cessation? Within matter of hours together to weeks, within 12 hours, there is a decreased sympathomimetic effect of nicotine. Thereby, vasoconstriction is prevented. And we can increase the P50 from 29.9 to 22.9 to 26.4 to the normal level. And we can reduce the carboxyhemoglobin level in the blood from 7% to 1%. That is a very great achievement. Within you stop smoking for 12 hours before surgery. For a few weeks to months, there is an increase in mucus and sputum production and regression of globular cell hypoxia, hyperplasia, which lead on to reduction in mucus production and improved mucociliary function. Thereby, clearance function is very good and improved small airway function. Thereby, the reactivity of the small airway is very less and come to normal and decreases cough and wheeze. And if it is cessation is more than 6 weeks, the immune function come to normal and reduction in the active alveolar macrophages and the enzyme induction, normal hepatic enzyme induction activity will come down. So the benefits, the risk of CAD and CVA, coronary artery disease and cardiovascular stroke approaches the risk of non-smokers within 10 to 15 years. The reduction in mortality rate more pronounced in smokers who quit before the age of 30. And the $1,000,000 question actually asked in the examination, what is the optimal time for smoking cessation before surgery? They will ask you. It is the ideal answer is 4 to 8 weeks, not less than 4 weeks, and you cannot extend up to not more than 8 weeks. However, the permanent damage which was occurred by smoking will not be reversible. Alveolar dissection already occurred? No. Smooth hyperplasia happened? No. Fibrosis happened? All are permanent. But we can have the so many reversible components are there in smokers, they will enjoy these benefits and it will lead on to better perioperative outcome of the patient. And smoking cessation protocols, strategies. That is one of the most important strategies, VBA tool. That is very brief, active tool. There is a three-step approach is there. That is ask, advise, and act. That one is ask and record smoking history. That is in terms of practice, how long he has taken this smoking, and advise that effective way to quit is with a combination of medication and specialist support. Okay, should advise the patient and act on this. Act on the patient's response. According to the response, you would act on it. Smokers usually have high motivation to quit the smoking before a major surgery because they are craving for sensation smoking. This is considered as a teachable moment to advise such patients. So smoking cessation programs, there are so many pharmacological options are available. That is by the nicotine replacement therapy by means of patches, lozenges, chewing gums, inhalers, and nasal spray. They are using these produces local irritation of the various methods you have used. And next is the oral bupropion. It is a nicotine receptor antagonist. And another drug is oral vernicillin, that is a nicotine receptor partial agonist. This is the oral bupropion therapy. There is a sustained release tablet. The initial dose is 150 milligram once daily for 3 days and increased up to 150 milligram orally twice a day. That is the initial dose therapy, and that is for only 3 days. And for maintenance dose, you have to give 150 milligram orally twice a day, and the maximum dose you should not exceed 300 milligram, and maximum single dose should not exceed 150 milligram, and the duration of therapy is 7 to 12 weeks. So before this, you have to follow these protocols. Begin dosing 1 week before quit day. Okay. So you have to start this therapy 1 week ahead. And the target stop date should be set within first 2 weeks of treatment, preferably in the second week. There should be an interval of at least 8 hours between the doses. That it should be maintained. It may be used with the nicotine transdermal system also. If there is no effect for 12 weeks, the treatment should be discontinued. More than 12 weeks, you should not administer this drug. Longer the treatment should be guided by the relative benefits and risks of the individual patients. So oral bupropion therapy. And next one is the oral varenicillin therapy. Varenicillin therapy, the mechanism is it is an agonist of the nicotinic receptors. So it acts on the mesolimbic system, dopamine system associated with the nicotine addiction. It will prevent the craving for smoking. The craving caused by this nicotine effect is minimized by using this varenicillin. It prevents nicotine stimulation. It stimulates the nicotine activity, but a lesser degree than nicotine does. So the quit smoking date regimen, initiate this regimen 1 week before quit smoking date, and days 1 to 3, 0.5 milligram OD per oral, and next 4 to 7 days, 0.5 milligram per oral BD, and day 8 to the end of treatment. Any smoking cessation programs, the oral treatment is for only 12 weeks. If quitting is successful after 12 weeks, continue for another 12 weeks also at the dose of 1 milligram per day. Have you heard about this terminology, vaping, e-cigarettes? You should have the knowledge regarding these e-cigarettes also. In the Western population, it is very popular. They are using these e-cigarettes without combustion of the tobacco. That is called vaping. There is a machine, vaping machine for e-cigarettes. LED lights up when the smoker takes out the puff. It's a battery-operated machine. The microprocessor controls the heat and light at the tip. The sensor detects the smoker takes the puff or not, and there are heat vaporizers are present, and the vaporizers is called propylene glycol and nicotine. Cartomizer is there available, flavor of cartridge, disposable mouthpiece. It stores nicotine glycol mixture. So e-cigarettes are use battery to heat the solvent and dispose on a aerosol that contains nicotine, water, and optional flavors, whichever the customer needs. And the nicotine is thus derived directly into the respiratory tract without combustion. So only the nicotine is delivered. In combustion, there are 4,500 culprits are delivered into our system. Here, only the nicotine is delivered without combustion to this our airway. And whether it is harmful or not, can you use it? So the harmful effects of vaping is still and not at all identified. In that current opinion, it is less harmful to the original cigarettes. But you should be very careful. These e-cigarettes will also contain these heavy metals, polycyclic hydrocarbons, and nitrosamines, and volatile organic compounds and inorganic compounds are there. But the harmful effects are still not fully identified by these e-cigarettes. So the knowledge regarding the e-cigarettes is also important. Those patients coming for elective or emergency surgery. And electronic cigarettes used by this in UK data, it is 2.3 million, and long-term effect is not known. Carry home message. Come to the end of the session today. Smoking increases the preoperative morbidity and mortality in a dose-dependent manner. You should have to remember it. Should be very careful. So anesthesiologists should be familiar with the effects of smoking on various organ systems and preoperative implications of smoking. The number of effects of number of commonly used anesthetic drugs are modified in smokers because of the enzyme induction. So altered pharmacokinetics due to enzyme induction of various drugs used in the anesthesia. There are more than 4,500 chemicals in cigarette smoke, and the nicotine and carbon monoxide plays a major role in the detrimental effects of human body system. Fortunately, smoking is known to protect against PON. This is the most important positive effect by smoking. And the cessation of smoking is most important. That should be followed for all patients who are coming for elective surgery. That will increase the perioperative outcome of the patient. Likelihood of the mortality rate is reduced, and it will prevent major postoperative pulmonary complications also. Okay. And anesthetists should be aware of various smoking cessation programs that are all available. There are ABT, VBT is there, and oral bupropion and nicotine replacement therapy, nicotine receptor full antagonist and partial antagonist. There are regimens are there. You should be aware about it, and they should have the knowledge regarding e-cigarettes is most important. It will also contain so many chemicals which is injurious to our human body systems also. Thank you.